Welcome back. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight. We're going to go into more of the nitty-gritty things and pieces that I walk my clients through to really support them with their energy, their focus, their vitality, and just feeling really incredibly grounded, safe, connected with their bodies. So I want to talk to you today what you think is training your energy and no. Guys, welcome back. Today we're going to dive into the topic around what's really draining your energy and how it's not what you think it probably is. We're going to get more into the nitty-gritty today around pieces that I support my clients really navigate when it comes to their energy levels, because your energy is everything and your physical health is obviously a huge part of that. So I want to get more into the tangibility with you today and really dive through into some different pillars that I walk my clients through to really get them to feel incredible, not only within their own skin, but also in their energy, in their mindset, and in their body ultimately, right? Really living from an embodied place. So maybe you feel like you have been checking all the boxes, doing all the right things, but no matter what you seem to shift, when you get home at night, you just feel like you're left with nothing. And you just feel empty inside, like you've got nothing left. Or you wake up and you feel more tired than how you went to sleep. Or maybe you feel like you are creating the business that you really love and that feels really in alignment with you, but your body feels it's constantly in this kind of low grade emergency, like it's heightened and it feels like it's like constantly on edge, and you may find yourself feeling really hypervigilant throughout the day. So you're not tired because you're doing too much. You're probably tired because you're leaking energy in multiple different ways throughout your day and in your business. And it comes down to these little touch points, ultimately, that come back to abandoning your body. We'll dive more into that. But really understanding that when I'm talking about the body, I'm talking about it on all levels. I'm talking about it from the energy space. I'm talking about it in the nervous system space. And I'm also talking about it in the very physical way as well. So the first leak that you may be experiencing is this kind of nervous system hypervigilance, which, as I shared just before, it's like this hyper alertness where you feel like you're constantly on edge, and this feeling of being constantly on and always scanning for what is maybe or could go wrong. And it's subtle. It's not like a catastrophe. It doesn't bring you to a halt, but it's like your internal Wi-Fi is always searching and never downloading, right? So it's always scanning, it's always on. And this always being on amber is incredibly draining for your energy. And it does come back to that nervous system regulation, because you're in that hypervigilance and you're not feeling grounded and you're not feeling safe to just like drop in, be present, and not feeling like you have to be on and over 1,000 things at the same time. Leak number 2 can show up as compartmentalizing your femininity, your feminine energy. When you're leading in your business, it can be very easy to suppress your body's wisdom. And a lot of the time, we can build a business that has been founded and rooted in structures and marketing and sales strategies that are really rooted in that masculine energy. And when I'm talking about feminine and masculine energy, I'm not talking about gender here. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. I'm talking about it from the sense of just energy, and we need both. So I'm going to really highlight that. We do need both. But when we are abandoning that feminine aspect of us, we're overriding wisdom, we're overriding intuition, we're overriding even parts of our cycle that offer certain elements of wisdom and insight and awareness that if we're not creating the space for, we're not going to be able to access it. And so that disconnect from your nature, especially if you are a woman, then that disconnect can also lead to feeling incredibly exhausted and drained because we're not listening, we're not creating that space to really feel connected with what is coming up, what is present, and what is there for us to really be with in this cycle. And I'm not talking about menstrual cycle, I'm talking about cycles of life. So yes, it can be that granular, but I want to dive out of that and be like the cycle of the life that you're actually in at this point in time. Leak number 3 can be self-abandonment in small daily choices. I've touched upon this piece around self-abandonment and how huge it is, but it can be, as I've shared so many times, when you say yes, but your body is screaming no, and you're not listening to it, and you continue to push, force, ignore any signals from the body because you think you should, ... whatever that is for you. And there are underlying layers and roots to that for sure. But even simple things like skipping food or skipping rest or even not listening when you actually know that it's time to actually lean back instead of leaning in, all of those small little choices, they over time erode self-trust. And that's a huge piece around energy leak, because when we feel really disconnected, we don't feel that connection with ourselves. Choices and decisions can feel so much more challenging when we don't have a foundation of self-trust. We can ruminate, we can overthink it, we can extend that timeline out unnecessarily because we don't trust ourselves. And so we go back and forth over making a certain decision and if the decision is right for us and so forth and so on. So that piece around self-abandonment is a huge energy drain when it comes to just daily life, and it compounds over time. So it may seem really minute, really small, but over time it will compound. The fourth leak I want to touch on is unprocessed emotions. It has a load on your body. As I spoke to yesterday, my experience with shingles, for example, when I was 14. So what you don't allow yourself to feel, your body is carrying, whether you are aware of that or whether you're not. And what it does is the more that we carry it, it's that weight. Yes, it feels heavy, but more than that, it feels incredibly restrictive. Like you are claustrophobic because you're carrying all this stuff that you're not willing to process, or maybe it's not even not willing to process, but you just simply haven't done it, right? And so unfelt emotions become tension, inflammation, fatigue, chronic disorders, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, shingles, all of those things, right? Those are the byproduct of unprocessed emotions. Very, very, very much so. And so if you find yourself constantly tired and drained, well, that is a real area to look at. And I do actually have a 3-part series called Emotional Alchemy that if you comment, I can send you for absolutely free. If you're like, I actually just don't know how to process emotions and I would love some support doing so. So a lot of women hold a lot of frustration, hold a lot of guilt or maybe grief or shame, rage, whatever it is. But what it leads to ultimately is numbness, right? Is numbness. I then also want to touch on two other leaks that can lead on from these. So a very tangible leak, which we'll call leak number 5, is not actually nourishing yourself on a foundational level to support your energy. So many women I work with in the beginning, they don't even realize they're undereating, but they're undereating. And I say this having been in that place. I used to do fasting and all the things, dry fasting, fruitarianism, intermittent fasting, blah, blah, blah. I cannot tell you the difference in my energy, sustained energy throughout the day, since I came back to really focusing on my macronutrients. Yes, I am aware of my calories and I'm aware of the macronutrients that I'm putting in my body. And I know that when I have 4 regular meals throughout the day, my energy and my focus is so on point. Now, I track these things because it's like in business. If you're not tracking your results, then you're basically leaving it to hope. And I'm not fixated on those things, and I don't encourage being fixated, but I do see it as being incredibly healthy to have a benchmark, especially when you're coming from a place and starting from a place where you've been undereating without realizing it. For example, that was me in my case. Now, I come from a health and fitness background. I've been a personal trainer for over 13 years at this point, studied nutrition and macronutrients, etc. This is a key pillar. We cannot ignore what it is that we're putting in our bodies, what we're fueling our bodies with. It is so important to the clarity, the strength, and the connection that we actually feel with our body. And yes, you can do this intuitively. And the idea is that you do move towards that if that's what feels good for you. But start by really just having awareness around, what am I actually putting in my body? And is it actually able to sustain me in the way that I desire to? Do I feel clear after I've eaten, or do I feel tired? Those are all signals that you really get to take notice of, because it's really important and we can't ignore it. And health, a lot of the time, becomes the equalizer in business. Because if you're wanting to be in business for the long run, then you need to make sure that your health is on point. Because when that is not there, nothing else matters. And that's why a huge component of my coaching with women is their physical health. Leak number 6 I want to talk to is physical movement. Again, we know that muscle mass increases brain function, increases your physical energy. It helps women to navigate the chances of osteoporosis past 40 and beyond. These things are really important. It helps with your brain function. It supports you with your physical energy. Not to mention that you get to feel incredible in your own body. Not to mention that you get to feel attracted to yourself when you walk past a mirror instead of criticizing yourself. Like, you do get to have the body that you want, and it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be complicated. I want you to hear that. I think a lot of the time there is such a myth around lifting weight and how it will create bulkiness. And that really gets me fired up when I hear someone talking about that, because it's simply not true. And when you're not willing to actually increase muscle mass, you're basically saying, there are so... Like, how are you going to stand up off a chair when you're 80 if you don't have muscle mass? If you're just skin and bones? Like, how are you going to live independently into your 80s and 90s if you don't have that strength behind you? And the time to build it is now, right? So I'm not going to go off onto a rampage on that, but your physical health is really important. So if you're feeling really tired, swap out those HIIT class sessions, swap out long steady state cardio, and focus on getting in the gym, building strength. And I'm not talking about fluffing around. I'm talking about getting into it and really, making the most out of your time. Leave the yoga and the Pilates. I'm trained in all of those. And when I'm working with a woman to support her with energy, the first thing I do is I get her on a strength training routine. Now, yes, she can do a little bit of interval cardio that's absolutely perfect, because we do want to look after the heart. But when we're thinking about longevity, when we're thinking about energy, the priority is strength training. So I am going to leave it there with you tonight, but I would love to really hear from you. What has landed for you? What are your takeaways? And if you need any support, send me a DM on Instagram at simonewhiteman.co or comment below, and I will send you over some resources to support you. Wishing you the most beautiful night.